our story this week is The Boy Who Couldn't Smile. So we're going to go ahead and read this today. All right, so as we read this article, we're going to think about the main problem that Osawa faced and how it was solved. So, Osawa was born looking different from most kids. Some people were cruel to him. His future looked sad, but then one day his whole life changed. Inside a small schoolhouse, smiling students sang with their teacher. But in the front row, one boy sat glumly. I wonder what glumly means. Well, I can look down at the bottom here, and remember, all of our vocabulary words are down here at the bottom, and it says that glumly means sadly. So the boy sat sadly, or glumly. His mouth barely moved. His eyes looked at the floor. This was 6-year-old Osawa. Osawa lived in a quiet village of Tanzania, a country in Africa. He didn't have many friends. Most of his neighbors didn't trust him. They said Osawa was cursed. Another vocabulary word. So I can look down at the bottom, and it says that cursed means affected by something bad. So they think that he was affected by something bad. What did Osawa do to deserve such a lonely life? Why were people so cruel? In fact, Osawa had done nothing. He was simply born looking different from most people. He had a cleft lip, which means that his mouth and lip were misshapen. So let's look back at cleft. I can look at the bottom, and it tells me that cleft means split or divided into two parts. So if I look at the picture, you can actually see the cleft lip in the picture. It also says that his mouth and lip were misshapen. Well, I see the word shape in that word, so I know it has something to do with the shape, and it's talking about his mouth and lip. So if I look at the shape, it doesn't look normal, does it? So if I look at the definition at the bottom, it says not having a natural or regular shape, which would make sense because his lip is not normal. It's misshapen. Like most kids with clefts, Osawa struggled to chew and to swallow, and to say certain sounds. Now we're going to pause and think. What was different about the way Osawa looked? Well, we can look back in just a few sentences ago. We read that he had a cleft lip and that his mouth and lip were misshapen. So, he looked different because he had a cleft lip. High costs. Each year, 1 out of every 700 babies in the world is born with a cleft. In America, most of these babies have surgery to fix their mouths. Their scars quickly fade and they live normal lives. But around the world, millions of children have never had their cleft lip fixed. Most live in very poor areas where there aren't many doctors and hospitals. Osawa's parents are farmers with a small plot of land. Their one-room house is made of mud bricks. They could never save enough money to pay for surgery for Osawa. Instead, they could only watch helplessly as their child suffered. Helplessly. Well, if I look at this word, it has help in it, and the word less. So I could think maybe they have less help. That's what I would think. So if I look at the bottom, it says that helplessly means without being able to help. So the parents couldn't help Osawa. In some parts of the world, kids born with differences are often bullied. Many families are so ashamed that they abandon their kids with clefts. Abandon. I can look at the bottom, and it says to stop caring for or to leave behind. So many families just left their children behind. That's really sad. We're going to stop and pause and think, and it says, why is it hard for poor children who have clefts to get surgery? Well, if a family is poor, that means they don't have enough money. So that means their parents don't have enough money to get their cleft lip fixed. So that would be why it's harder for them. All right, and if we look at the pictures up top, it says brighter days. Left is Osawa with his parents after the surgery that changed his life, and below is today. He has many friends that he loves, and he loves to go to school. And then we also look, it says surgery time. Osawa and his mother, Ada, wait at the hospital in Dar es Salaam. So, what would happen? Osawa's parents did not leave him. Instead, they tried to protect their beloved boy. They ignored their neighbor's cruelty, but their hearts broke. Osawa's parents kept him close. His grandfather cried when he spoke of his grandson. Will he get a job, he wondered. Osawa's family was right to be worried. In many places, kids with clefts die young or end up begging on the streets. It was hard for Osawa's family to imagine a happy future for their son, but that was about to change. A charity named Smile Train works closely with a hospital that is about 700 miles from Osawa's village. So if I look at charity, I can find its definition at the bottom of the page, and it says it's a group that helps people, often those who are poor or sick. Smile Train has trained doctors around the world to perform cleft surgeries. It has provided free surgeries to more than 1 million kids worldwide. Kids like Osawa. Osawa's parents first found out about Smile Train from the radio. They learned that Osawa's surgery would be paid for. The hospital even sent a driver to pick up Osawa and his mother. So that makes sense for why we see the picture up here of his mother, him and his mother waiting for the surgery. And we're also going to pause and think, what does Smile Train do for children with clefts? Well, we can look back, and it says that they have trained doctors around the world to perform those surgeries to fix it. A new life. At the hospital, Osawa tried not to cry. He was nervous but brave. I would be nervous too if I was him. He shook the hand of the doctor who would operate on him. Osawa was given a medicine that put him into a deep sleep. He would not feel any pain, and then the doctors went to work. He used special tools to carefully reshape Osawa's mouth. Within an hour, the surgery was finished, and Osawa's life was changed forever. When Osawa first saw himself in the mirror after the surgery, he stared in joyful shock. My mouth looks good, he exclaimed. I look like my friends. Today, Osawa is 12. Watching him laugh and play with his friends, it's difficult to imagine him as the sad little boy he once was. For Osawa and his family, there's much to smile about. So then that goes along with the pictures over here of him after the surgery. And you can see him with his friends and his family smiling. So, if we pause and think for the last time, what changed Osawa's life? Well, we know if we look back at what we just read this section, he was able to get that surgery that fixed his cleft lip. So now he looked more like his friends, and he was able to not be so sad anymore. He was happy. So I know that this reminds me of a book that we read towards the beginning of the year and the movie that we watched, and if you guys remember it, it was called Wonder. So it was about a little boy who had a lot of things that went wrong when he was a little baby, and he had a lot of surgeries to fix it, but as he grew up, his face was misshapen, his head was misshapen, even after those surgeries to fix a lot of those things, and he was picked on just like Osawa. And we know that that's not something that anyone should have to go through. We should always want to be kind and be a friend. So this kind of goes along with that. And we know that at the end of Wonder, he was also able to accept the way he was and be happy. And he had made a lot of friends along the way as well. So that is this week's story. If you guys would like to, you can read this little short article here. And it's about a little girl who helps others as she helps do a lemonade stand that goes along with the Smile Train. So if you guys want to take a few minutes, you can read over that little article. And tomorrow, make sure that you get back on to Storyworks Junior, and you can go right here where we are right now, and you can have it read aloud to you, or you can rewatch my video. It's totally up to you, but I would definitely suggest doing the read aloud, and make sure you do those pause and think questions. All right, guys, I will see you soon. Have a good one.